At InDigital, we know the public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI Net goes beyond industry standards, not only I3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
Here in Greenville County, we have 8 different places where a 911 call can be answered.
It is the largest county in South Carolina. It's a challenge.
The type of information that a telecommunicator gets from Radius Plus is location-based technology. You can see where the caller is, if they have a medical issue, if they speak a different language. They're immediately able to text to that caller in their native language. It reduces response times because it immediately gets first responders where they need to be.
If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is going to be Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, as well as Rapid Deploy and Carbine, and a big shout out to patrons as always. I just wanted to jump in here really quick, just to give kind of a preview of what you're about to watch. This episode is actually going to be based on a keynote that I gave last week for the 2022 Be the Difference conference. This is only the second time that I've done this session, this presentation, and the first time I did it for the Iowa APCO conference virtually. And I'd shared the video out there on YouTube as well as Facebook. However, I wanted to share this story as part of the podcast as well. I wanted everyone to hear this because, given the feedback and everything, I feel like it will be a really good story and learning experience for all of you. So without further ado, here's my keynote from Be the Difference 2022, and it's called An Emergency Landing. We're about to get started here. I'm Ricardo Martinez. I'm the founder of Within the Trenches Media, as well as creator and host of Within the Trenches podcast, founder of the I Am 911 movement and the Imagine Listening sessions. And as Nathan said, also the Dare to Be Great virtual conferences. Now, I will warn you, I'm going to go over a few minutes because I want to make sure that we've got, the time, and I put all of this in here and you guys get everything from this. So this keynote session is called An Emergency Landing. And I just want to read to you actually the information that I had put in here just to kind of give you a little bit of an overview of what you're going to hear today, because I'm going to tell you a story, something that happened to me. And as you know me, I like to use my life experiences and compare them to dispatch. So as I'm going through all of this, bear with me, because by the end of it, you will understand the comparison and how all of this works. So the description for this is, this job that we do is not an easy one. Sometimes we feel like, you can feel like you're crashing. You feel like your airplane is going down, metaphorically, that it's going down. You may feel that there's nowhere to turn to. However, there's always a chance to ask for help. And you're going to see, kind of a pattern here on asking for help and being there for each other. So, we just have to listen and allow ourselves to make that safe landing. So 3 years ago, I had an incident on an airplane. And it was a scary situation, but it really put life into perspective, the things that I wanted to do and push forward, and opportunities that I wanted to create, not wait for the door to open. I wanted to create those opportunities. So I use this incident as a way to compare real life experience to what we deal with in dispatch and how we can overcome that. So I'm going to start off this story with a little bit of dark humor, but first I have a question. How many of you know why they put oxygen masks on an airplane? How many of you know? What's the reason for that? Also, in life, when we're thinking about these oxygen masks in your own life or in dispatch, how many of you actually put your oxygen mask on first? Now, that's a hard question there, right? Because for all of us, it's our instinct to want to help. We want to help others first. And it's the same. We don't always put our oxygen mask on first, but we should. Sometimes we should, right? Actually, we should more than we do. A lot of times we don't get that, or we don't actually take that chance. We don't take that chance for it, so that we can breathe, so we can get that help, right? Okay. So keeping that in mind, I want to share a video clip here with you. It's from one of my favorite movies, and it's Fight Club. So I'm going to put this on the screen, and it's a little low, but I'll tell you what the quote is here that I want you to hear. So here we go.
You know why they put oxygen masks on planes? So you can breathe. Oxygen gets you high. In a catastrophic emergency, you're taking giant panic breaths. Suddenly you become euphoric, docile. You accept your fate. It's all right here. Emergency water landing 600 miles an hour. Blank faces, calm as Hindu cows. That's an interesting theory.
Now, I want you to keep this quote in mind as we're going through this, because in this story, this quote really hit home. Okay? Now, if you couldn't hear it, I'm going to go ahead and repeat the quote. And the quote says, you know why they put oxygen masks on planes? Oxygen gets you high. In a catastrophic emergency, you're taking giant panic breaths. Suddenly, you become euphoric, docile. You accept your fate. Okay, remember that. So, this story is a work trip. I was coming back from Alabama, going to Detroit. And when I was on the plane, getting ready to leave, I remember thinking, man, this is going to be a boring-ass flight. Now, in comparison to dispatch, sometimes we're in the center. Nothing is going on. And sometimes you think, this is going to be a boring shift. Nothing is going on. You put it out there in the universe, right? So this is where the dark humor comes in, and also tempting fate. You tempt fate. So, what did I do? For whatever reason, I ended up posting a quote on Facebook. A quote from another movie that I love very much. And that movie is La Bamba. How many of you have seen La Bamba? How many of you know what happens in La Bamba? The movie is about Richie Valens, but includes Buddy Holly, and I believe his name is J.P. Richards, or Richardson. The Big Bopper. What happens to them on that plane? Okay? Some of you might know, some of you might not. Spoiler alert, they all die in a plane crash. So what I put as a quote on Facebook as I'm waiting for the plane to fly out is what Buddy Holly says to Richie right before they go up in the air. And he says, hey, Richie, relax, man. Everything is cool. Besides, the sky belongs to the stars, right? Funny, my parents call me Richie as well. So I put that on Facebook. But after I posted it, oh man, I've kind of freaked out a little bit because I thought, I'm tempting fate here. I'm tempting fate. Like, I'm putting that out in the universe. So after that, I remember thinking, God, please help us that we will be okay. I wasn't really thinking about the quote, thank you. I did a sign of the cross, and I sat there and I thought, everything will be fine. But it's the same thing in dispatch, right? You tempt fate. There's always that one person who ends up using that Q word, which I will not say here because there are probably many of you who are watching this from dispatch right now, and I don't want to tempt fate. But sometimes it happens, right? And what happens? The shit hits the fan. So, I put my headphones on and I started playing some music. I was listening to the Beatles, still thinking, it's just going to be a boring, regular flight. It'll be fine. Nobody was sitting next to me, and I thought, oh man, life is good. I'm just going to chill here, go to sleep, something that I never do. I don't ever just crash out. But I started to doze off. We took off. We're in the air. And something happened, okay? Again, I was feeling good. Everything was good. And then I'm awakened. As all this music was going off, or playing rather, I was awakened by something. I was awakened by a loud pop noise, and it startled me. And what I saw was this. The oxygen masks had fallen. Now, when I had dozed off, I was holding onto my phone like this. And I was awake and I was startled. And I see these oxygen masks hanging in front of me. And for whatever reason, at that moment, because I was in shock, I was in disbelief that this was going on, I took a picture and captured this. Now, as this is going on, everyone is looking at each other because we can't even believe that this is going on. Now, in dispatch, it's kind of the same way. When you've got a very hard call that's going on and you're in there with everyone in the room, you're sometimes be looking around. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing, but you're looking around, right? Like, damn, is this really going on right now? Is this real life? It gets like that in dispatch sometimes, doesn't it? Even if you're by yourself, you're thinking, is this real life? Like, the shit is hitting the fan. Things are going crazy. Now, at this time, again, everyone is looking at each other. Even the flight attendants are looking at us like, what the hell is going on? And then we hear a ding, and the plane is going down. You can feel it. We're going down fast. And there was a lady sitting behind me. She was holding her infant, and she yells out, God, no. I've got goosebumps right now thinking about it. I see it all in my head. The flight attendants, they ended up yelling at us. They yelled at us to put our masks on. Put your masks on right now. And sometimes, in comparison to dispatch, we don't always hear that, right? We don't always hear when people are helping or wanting to help us because we block it out sometimes. So she's yelling at us to put our masks on. The pilot comes over the intercom and says, ladies and gentlemen, we're not sure what is going on, but we need to divert. Prepare for emergency landing. And that was it. So I want to give you a taste of what I was going through in that moment. I want you to close your eyes and I want you to listen. Because remember, I was listening to music at the time. And this is what it was.
Yesterday, all my troubles seem so far away. Now it looks as though
So I want you to imagine for a moment, your plane is going down. And what you're looking around and seeing is everyone struggling to put their mask on. People on phones reaching out for help or saying goodbye. And for me, I too am struggling as I'm listening to this, trying to put my mask on. Now, in comparison to dispatch, there's all of these people who are calling in, asking for help. Such chaos. It's almost like our own plane is going down sometimes, right? But what about us? What about when we need help? Why don't we take that help? So that's what I was hearing, that music. Now, it's like taking a hard call. Again, sometimes it feels like our own plane is going down during and after that call, but it's up to us to ask for help. And it's okay to ask for help. On the same side of that coin, it's okay and it's good to actually listen to your friends who are trying to help. So I couldn't get my mask on. I couldn't get my mask on to breathe. And why was that? It's because I still had my headphones on. As soon as I yanked my headphones off, I was able to get it on and I was able to breathe. I was taking it in. Now, in comparison, that those headphones were blocking me from getting my mask on so that I could breathe. And once I did, again, I could breathe. And the same goes in dispatch with blocking out my calls. This was something that I did. I would block out my calls. I wouldn't listen. Do you need help? No, I'm fine. And that's something that we all do a lot, right? We've done it at least once or twice. And we don't always hear people because we have our headphones on, per se. We're blocking out those who are trying to help us. When I finally took them off, when I finally started sharing my stories, I could breathe, which is why I've been sharing stories ever since. So also during this time, the girl who was holding her baby, she was singing. And I couldn't hear that at first because I had those headphones on. When she was singing, this is what I heard.
Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. The Bible tells me so.
I couldn't hear that in the beginning. Again, I had those headphones on. When I took them off, I was able to hear her. Now, she was singing to her infant, but she was singing loud enough as if she was singing for all of us. Found comfort. And in comparison, it was like a friend who's trying to help. And I was able to finally hear her. I was finally able to get that help in a sense because it was comforting to hear her singing. Again, she was singing for her baby, but it was as if she was singing for all of us to give us comfort in everything that is going on at the time. So for me, I was reaching out for help. I tried to use the Wi-Fi. I tried to use my phone, and nothing. It already surpassed that spot where the Wi-Fi was no longer working. So I started to pray, and I asked for help that way. Sometimes it feels like no one is listening, right? But someone is. Somehow, somewhere, someone is listening. And it was in that moment. It was in that moment that the quote from Fight Club made sense. It made sense. I was breathing in the oxygen. I had accepted my fate. Now, when our plane is going down, mentally, emotionally, all of that, we may accept that fate. However, it's up to us to ask for help and find that support in each other so that we can land safely. As we're going down, I'm looking over at the guy across from me, and he had his shade up. I could see out of that window, and the ground was approaching really fast. And I continued to pray. I continued to listen as the mom was singing to her child. And I was scared. But I was ready. For whatever was going to happen, I was ready. I had sent a message out for prayers, and they were answered. Thank you. So just before we landed, we were told that we were able to remove our masks. They told us, well, they couldn't tell us, actually, right away. They couldn't tell us what was going on because we could. It smelled like something was burning in there, something electrical. We couldn't tell. I mean, there was, looking out the windows, there was no flames or anything, so we weren't sure, but they couldn't tell us what was going on. But a few seconds later, we landed. And we landed in Huntsville, Alabama. It was not too far from where we had taken off. Excuse me. Now, I want to show you something. I'm going to bring this down and share one more thing with you here. When I got off the plane, I told my family what had happened. And I called my siblings and told them. And a few hours later, my brother sent me a link. And this is what it was. That's my plane. That's the emergency landing. You can see all the emergency vehicles coming for us. Now, looking at the plane, it looks regular, right? Looks like everything is fine. You would have never known that all of that was going on in there. Never. Because just looking at it, it doesn't look like anything happened. There's no smoke. There's nothing. There's no obvious signs, right? Well, let's compare again. In real life. In dispatch, especially. When we're walking through life, nobody knows. No one knows that your own plane is going down. But just like the plane, just like my plane, we can land safely. All of us that were on there were praying, asking for help, and we landed safely. It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to ask for help. There's no shame in it. So this is what I mean. You would have never known. And when we're walking around with each other, when we're in dispatch, when we have people talking to us, we don't know what they're going through. Sometimes there's no signs. There's nothing obvious. So just because you don't see anything or hear anything, or that there are no obvious signs, doesn't mean that you shouldn't ask how someone is doing. Because maybe that's all they need, is to hear from you. How are you doing? Because maybe, just maybe, it'll be that helps them open up and be there. So why do I tell you this story? Well, I want you to know, again, that it's okay to ask for help and to be there for each other. And on top of that, if you're looking to further your dispatch career, whether it's becoming a trainer, a GIS specialist, supervisor, deputy director, peer support specialist, any of that, don't wait for that opportunity. Create it. You have it in you to do this and to move forward, as the conference says, to be the difference. On the other side of that as well, if you're struggling, don't wait. It's better to ask for help and be aware of your coworkers. The ongoing theme that we've been talking about here is family, and we are family. This is the era of the headset, and we're all in this together. When it feels like our plane is going down, it's okay to ask for help. Because again, we can work together to land safely. So I want to leave you with a quote as we're coming up on the time here. I found this quote a little bit after this incident. And remember, I told you this incident put life into perspective. It pushed me. It pushed me to do everything that I'm doing now, to go solo and just take that leap of faith. So here's the quote that you can take with you. When I found this quote, and I looked for the author, because the first time I saw it, it said that it was unknown. And then there were a few others that I saw that had different names attached to it. So I'm not sure who said it first. So I'll just say that the author is unknown. And the quote says, "Life is too short to wake up in the morning with regrets. So love the people who treat you right. Forget about the ones who don't, and believe that everything happens for a reason. If you get a chance, take it. If it changes your life, let it. Nobody said it'd be easy. They just promised it would be worth it." I hope you enjoy the rest of this conference. It's been amazing. Thank you so much for the support, as always. And please, look out for each other. If you're struggling, ask for help. If you feel like your plane is going down, we can land safely. Thank you. Thank you, all of you, for attending the 2022 Be the Difference Conference, and a huge shout out as well to the Denise Amber Lee Foundation for trusting Within the Trenches Media to power your amazing conference, but also giving me the opportunity to be a keynote speaker and sharing this story. It's one that'll be with me for the rest of my life. And, it's a powerful one. It really put life into perspective and changed my life into pushing me to do everything it is that I do now. So thank you all for attending and for supporting, as always. If you have any comments, questions, or you want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that'll be wttpodcast@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter. That is @91podcast. You can like us on Facebook. That is facebook.com/Within the Trenches Podcast. This episode has been sponsored by InDigital, Rapid Deploy, as well as Carbine. and you can see this here on Facebook as well as YouTube and Twitter, and you can also listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone, and we'll see you in the next one.